R. Kelly's 14-year-old victim finally said her name out loud, and what shook people is what she says Robert did to her that never made it public. Details she carried in silence while the world argued over a tape and pretended that was the whole story. Shona Landfair stepped forward on camera for the first time. She was done letting everyone else control the version of her life that got told, and made it clear this was about finally owning the truth she was forced to bury.
How does it feel to not be Jane Doe anymore?
It feels very rewarding. It feels very liberating. I really wanted to live in my true skin, in my true self.
And once she started retracing how Robert entered her life in the first place, the story shifted from scandal to something far more calculated. Robert entered her life as someone trusted, someone positioned as family, becoming her godfather.
Ask Robert to be your godfather. Aunt Sparkle explained that I should sit on his lap and rub his head while I asked him to be my godfather.
That is the start of him entering into my life in a different way than just being an artist or hanging out at the studio.
Looking back now, the 2001 leaked tape was just a part the public fixated on, while everything else stayed buried. Landfair says Robert was telling her parents he was in love with their underage daughter, and while her father wasn't okay with it, she was already mentally trapped, used as leverage against her own family, pulled further away from anyone who might interrupt what he was doing.
My dad wanted to make the right decision, and he was not okay with anything that took place. I was more under Robert's brainwash.
And the part that still feels unreal is how close the truth came to dying back then, because in 2008, Robert walked free after being acquitted on child pornography charges, largely because Landfair wouldn't say it was her in the video, a silence she now calls one of her biggest regrets. And when she says that out loud, it lands heavy knowing how much power one lie protected. And as her silence from that era gets re-examined, attention naturally shifts to the people who were closest to her when all of this was happening, because fans are resurfacing claims that her father and brother continued working for R. Kelly until he finally went to prison, which adds a layer that feels less like ignorance and more like an environment where looking away became normal. Here's where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore, because R. Kelly's own brother allegedly said Robert asked him to lie and say he was the one on the tape, and somehow that didn't end in charges either, which makes the years of delay feel less accidental and more protected.
I knew R. Kelly's brother, Kerry Kelly, and at the time he had told me that, R. Kelly allegedly asked him to lie and say that he was the one on the tape, not R. Kelly.
And people are asking who protected him, because once you zoom out from her story, the environment around him starts to look familiar. One resurfaced comment claims celebrities present during that era witnessed Landfair, which lines up disturbingly well with how often young girls were around studios, hotels, and industry rooms where nobody stopped anything. That broader context is why older footage keeps coming back into focus, like R. Kelly openly acknowledging Aaliyah's age as 14 while still moving forward anyway, because hearing him say it himself kills the idea that he didn't know and makes it sound like he never thought he'd be challenged. And the reach of that damage didn't end where most people think it does, because his own daughter, Buku Abi, has spoken about using substances to cope with what she's endured, saying she still loves her father while also alleging abuse, which shows how deep the control ran, even inside his own bloodline.
I love my dad. I support him as the artist that he is. But as a human being, you have a responsibility to uphold, and that's that.
Meanwhile, Sparkle, Landfair's aunt, pushed back hard on claims that she facilitated anything, saying the suggestion is deeply painful, while acknowledging that everything changed the moment she asked her niece to sit on Robert's lap and become his goddaughter, a moment that now feels like the doorway into everything that followed.
Sparkle also said this: any suggestion that I facilitated or enabled harm to my niece is untrue and deeply painful. As for R. Kelly, who is currently serving sentences for 2 federal convictions, an attorney representing him told us they could not comment on specific allegations in the book without reading it.
All of this sits against the reality that Robert is now behind bars for racketeering and sex trafficking, and his lawyer says they haven't even reviewed Landfair's memoir yet, which is wild considering how much damage her truth has already done. Now that she's finally spoken for herself, the last layer holding this together falls away. The real question is how many people knew exactly what Robert was doing and stayed silent because they never thought she'd speak.